Hello everybody, Zach with Talk of Sinners, and what I wanted to talk about today is in relation to the book I'm reading, The Explicit Gospel by Matt Chandler. He had touched on a topic as, in the whole book, and this isn't the topic of conversation, but in the whole book he breaks down the gospel to the point of it being covered in all angles. He breaks it down to the gospel on the ground and the gospel in the air. And part of gospel in the air is more so of an aerial view of the world and the gospel in general and just how things operate. So he said one of the problems of being in the air too long, if having this aerial view of the gospel, one problem you can have is that you become very culture-driven. And the best way I can explain that is you have a view that is very mission-based and very outward-based, which is half of the gospel. Those are the things you need. You need to care for the community. You need to care for the world. You need to become active in the community and in the world. Many churches have outreach events, and those things are all good. But one problem with remaining aerial, with looking at the gospel from an aerial view, is you can become culture-driven. And you can become so wrapped up in doing these things and feeding the poor and doing this and that. You can be so focused that you stray from the gospel and you just kind of gravitate towards, okay, well, I'm not using this as an opportunity to bring the gospel to these people. I'm using this as an opportunity to help them out. And that's great. But just know that if you forget to take the gospel with you because you are so focused on the rest of the world, if you forget to take the gospel with you, there's no difference than your church doing this event compared to the Peace Corps or Gandhi or something like that. So it's very important that when we're doing this, that when we have this aerial view of the gospel, that we also have the ground view of the gospel, and we're so submersed in it at eye level that we're taking that everywhere. It's so easy to get wrapped up in this and that, and doing this and that for the sake of helping out, that we forget to. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get this on here. That we forget to share the gospel as well. And then, of course, there's other attributes that I would recommend reading the book. First of all, The Explicit Gospel by Matt Chandler. One more thing on culture-driven is the culture-driven, as opposed to gospel-driven, is that you have a church that is all about being hip, all about being cool, all about growing in number over anything else. It's about growing in number, being hip and cool. Now, this is anything from, the fashion being the center to the worship being the center, the worship band, stylistically speaking. Anything that's going to draw people in other than the pure heart of the gospel. We're not talking about the missions. We're not talking about the style sense, how good the worship is, how good the worship music is. Because honestly, if you're not going for the core to hear the gospel and to get to know Jesus better, then your missions and worship music is not Christ-like. If not for the heart of the gospel, it's not Christ-like. You would be better off, if that's all you're into, is joining the Peace Corps. But just know that when you sign up for these missions and these, duties at the church, know that it is not just your duty to go and do good things for people and be done with it. It is also your duty to take that gospel with you wherever you go, whether or not you're doing laundry or you're handing out backpacks or whatever else, feeding the poor. You're not just doing this to be a good moral person. You're doing this to spread the gospel, and that is why we want to be very cautious of churches that become driven so much by culture and not by the gospel, because it's a scary thing, and the more a church tries to fit in with the world, the less Christ-like they become. So examine where it is you're going to church right now, and just examine, are you getting that gospel? Are you getting that gospel at all? Or are you just getting more of the world dressed up like the gospel?